is going on, boys and girls of YouTube? So today I'm bringing you a jungle tier list. With this next patch about to hit, that's when I want to do an overall fat tier list, like a real tier list. I want to wait till then because builds are changing a little bit again. ADC builds are changing, so I don't want to do a full tier list just yet. I want to do a more individual tier list for the roles and cover what is broken, what's very strong, what's good, what's viable, and what you should just not even touch. This video is brought to you and sponsored by manscaped.com. We've worked with them over and over and over again, and this one's special because they're doing a massive Black Friday sale. Entire website, whole website, all manscaped.com is 25% off. Make sure you're using code weekend20. That will apply the bigger discount for you. Don't worry about it, just use that code. You'll get the free shipping, you'll get the 2 free gifts, I believe, which are the boxers, which are top tier, and then it's also the carrying case, which is amazing if you're traveling. And that is, remember, this is to get your lawnmower 4.0. This is top tier, waterproof, jump in the shower, easy peasy, good to go. You got the weed whacker. This is another thing that a lot of people don't even realize they need. This is just beast. This is amazing. You're wearing headsets all day. I know you got some stuff in your ears. It's getting a little sweaty. Get the hairs, get them out of there. And then on top of that, talk about sweat, we've got the Reviver and Reviver and the Preserver. Sorry, I had to make sure we centered those on the screen. Reviver, the Preserver, amazing because it's just grab them, little spritz out the door, you're good to go. These are just amazing. Like, I can't tell you, they are amazing. So go check it out, go get your discounts, get your free shipping. Black Friday, get it on it, don't miss out. Extra sales, it's worth it. Go get it, don't miss out, and I'll see you all in the video. And we're using new smite source. It's not completely finished. It should be live to you guys in like 3 or so days, somewhere in there. All depends if Hi-Res keeps the API up. It keeps crashing, so there's problems with development on the site because of that, but we're almost done. We're getting there. It's fully completed in a mobile form. Now we're porting everything into a desktop form and making sure everything fits right. But I'm going to give you a little sneak peek. You'll get to see the tier list maker, and I'll make a tier list and we'll go ahead and talk about it. It's gonna be a jungle tier list. Hopefully you guys like it. Hopefully you guys kind of get the discussion going on what you shouldn't be playing, why you should be playing it, those kind of things. Any comments, or drop any comments where you have questions, or if you're not sure about something, or if you, I don't know, maybe you've had more success with something than what it shows in the tier list, whatever, just go ahead and drop it in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, hit the like button, and let's go ahead and get into this video. So tier list name, weekend jungle tier list, 1129, right? So can be greater than, let's do this. All right, cool. Jungle tier list 1129. So what you can do with the tier list is quick overlay run. You can click on each tab, you can title it, you can pick the color you want. We're gonna add a few more colors because I want some brighter colors just because of how I am. But you can do all that. You can put notes under each tier list if you want to add some notes. That's up to you. And then I went ahead and you can add tiers, you create a tier list for you guys. When you make a tier list, you will be given a link. It will link you to the tier list on the website. That tier list will not be live anywhere on the website. It will just be for you and wherever you share it. My tier list will be the only ones that will be live on the actual website, just so you guys know that ahead of time. You won't be seeing random people's tier list pop up at any given moment. It's just not going to happen. I went ahead and I listed all of these already as poo-poo tier. Don't play these. Agni, Alpwash, Afro, Baba Yaga, Fafnir, Ganesh, Hades, Hel, Hera, Jingwei, Yorm, Kepri, Kulkin, Kumba, Morgan Le Fay, Merlin, Nox, Nuwa, Oleron, Persephone, Ra, Rama, Sobek, Sylvanas, Thoth, Tiamat, Xingten, Yamoja, and Zhonghui. And most of these are because either your clear is so bad it will ruin your game, or because your actual potential at ganking is dog. Most of it is one of those two reasons, and I really don't see much room for argument. Someone like Agni has decent clear, but pretty dog clear where you have to use 2 abilities to clear every wave. If you use your dash to clear, to clear every camp. If you clear a camp with dash and somebody walks around invading your jungle, you're dead. Any assassin will insta kill you. So stuff like that makes these gods absolutely terrible for jungling. Now we'll get into the rest of it. I have the tier list broken down into broken top gods to play, meaning these are banned a lot right now. This is going to be a ranked and casual tier list specifically for you guys, so you guys can see some more success in your gameplay. So broken top tier gods, these are the ones that you are going to pick over and over and over again to consistently win, or they're banned. Very strong are going to be your next level down, where they're played all the time. They have very good success rates in terms of winning games and being strong in any team comp. And those are the gods that you will also be looking at, you know, playing when these are banned, or if just somehow a crazy comp comes up that just doesn't work for that broken god. There are gods that I consider broken and can win all the time. There are not a lot of them. So it's going to be more often that you're not going to get one of these, or it's going to be first top picked. Good picks are going to be solid picks. No matter the team comp, you'll be able to play it. You'll have a good chance at a decent game. You'll have bad matchups. It might not be you being in the advantage all the time, but it can be played anyway. It's just about how you play it. Viable are going to be gods that can be played. They will not be consistent. They will have many bad matchups and be bad at a lot of team comps. And these are gods I do not recommend if you're trying to win. These are more of gods that you just find super fun, so you want to play them. Or if it's a super situational, you know, comp or god that's being played, you want to hard counter it. These are gods I would pretty much steer clear if you're trying to win. These are gods that aren't a problem with playing, and maybe you play one of them better than others, so that's why you want to play it. Very strong are going to be the ones you're playing most games. Broken, if it's available, pick it up. So Achilles is going to be a good pick. Solid into pretty much every team comp and every situation as a jungler. A little bit slower in the early game, and anything that has a lot of lockdown will make the game difficult for you, but still be playable. AMC was not supposed to be there. AMC should be a do not play these. Sorry about that. Actually put them up here. Amaterasu is viable and can be played, but she's really not good. She's not good in any role right now. She doesn't bring enough to the table. A lot of people tell me, oh, she's good. You ult and you run at people. Decent players, when you Ama ult them, they're just going to kill you. You're going to be full damage in the jungle, or even if you're hybrid, you're not tanky enough. The mages and the hunters are going to kill you. A hunter will 3 auto attack you in your ult. You will die before your ult goes off. Honor is going to be viable, difficult to play. You have to find that middle ground on being aggressive without ever being out of position, which is very difficult for people to find. Anubis, hyper risky, another viable pick because you do a lot of damage. You have setup with the sun, you have quick gank potential, and you have good clear. But the problem is you're immobile, so you're easy to kill, and anti-heal fully counters you. Quanger Banger is a good pickup, just a very slow pickup. A lot of people struggle with Quang because of the builds they're using. You want to go more ability-based build with 1 or 2 auto attack items to give you a mix of being able to do consistent damage while also having a bursty build, so you can get in and out of team fights very quickly. And the reason Quang isn't any higher than that is because he is easily tracked with Erendite. Erendite's going to fully just make your game a lot harder to play with your dash and being safe. And the items in the game are way more catered towards assassins right now than jungle mages. Apollo, another viable pick because has a global ult, which is cool for getting around the game. You have to be very, very consistent with your auto attacks. If you're missing half your autos, if you're not hyper consistent, you will get punished because a jungler is going to be in your face, not missing autos and hitting you very, very hard, while Apollo has very low ability damage and needs to rely on those autos. And outside of that, your clear isn't anything spectacular, your team fight isn't anything spectacular, and you have very little setup damage and CC for actual team fights. Arachne, a very good pick right now. In lower end ranked, Arachne will always be good. Bronze, silver, gold, and a little bit in a plat, Arachne is always going to be a top pick because people don't know how to deal with auto attack gods. But we're talking about the whole spectrum from diamond, masters, grandmasters, all the way down to bronze, and that's going to put Arachne in the good pick, in the good area. Solid pickup. You can play it in anything. You will have bad games because of team, like when it says no matter the team comp, it means you can get away with it, but that doesn't mean the game won't be more hard based on the team comp. There will be team comps that make Arachne's job very, very hard, but when people are not grouping, Arachne excels, and that's why she is in the good tier and not in the viable tier. Ares is viable because his clear is actually not bad. His early aggression and damage is nuts, but once you get to like level 13, 12, 13, 14, and other people are getting those levels, you will be out traded a lot more often if people are fighting back against you, and any kinds of lockdown will really make the game difficult for you to play, and gods like Nemesis will just fully blow you up, so you have to watch out for those picks. Artemis can be played dog clear, just absolute bad clear. Not that great in ganks. Not bad. Not that great. She requires a lot of farm. And in the jungle with kills and ganks, you're able to get the farm. Without it, you're not. And because she needs that farm to get the ganks, it's kind of counterintuitive. Doesn't work out right. And Artemis is viable in my book, but not really that good. Artemis, another viable pick. Problem is you end up building damage to do your ganks. She's great with damage. She does damage, but the problem is all of her damage is sustained long-term damage. It takes a while to get your 3 off. It takes a while to get your slashes off. You have to dash into people. You have to cripple people and sit on top of them, which is great. But at the same time, you take a lot of damage when you build damage. So you will die very fast when doing that, and that makes her hard to play, as well as mana is an issue. She goes very, very quickly. Athena, actually a very strong jungler. Oddly enough, has great clear. When you're building CDR, she does very well. She works well as a hybrid or a full damage character. And the reason I have her in very strong for your games, when this is played most games, this doesn't mean you like it is played every game. It means you can play it all the time, right? Like, Athena can be picked in every team comp. The reason she does so well, in my opinion, in all levels of play in the jungle, which is weird because you don't see it a lot, but it's mainly just because you want to play your high damage assassins. She can initiate. A lot of you guys struggle with playing initiation junglers. Maybe not playing them, but you play that role without picking them. So you'll pick gods like Tsukiyomi or Kali or Mercury, and you tell me you struggle to win games. It's because you're initiating. You're the first one into the team fights on gods that shouldn't be initiating. Someone like Athena can initiate. Can play late in the team fights by ulting in, can go in after your front line dies, or you go in first because you have that setup. And I think that's why I would put her in a very strong tier and probably one of the better magical junglers right now. Overall, she's safe because she has mobility. She has setup for you and your team. She has really good damage, especially once you build CDR. And she has great rotation potential because of her ultimate. Wilix is a very strong pick all the time. Pairs better with knockups as usual, but because knockups are the best CC in the game, if you're hitting your knockups consistently, if you're hitting 1 or 2 gods, you're gonna win a team fight. If you hit 2 gods with a knockup in a team fight, you're gonna win that team fight. You have extremely high damage. You have the ability to immune damage with your flip, which is almost like Ravana-esque, not quite the same, but similar to Ravana with more hard CC, which is why I like Wilix a lot. It's just difficult. It's a higher skill to play her properly and do what you need to do, and make sure you're hitting all your abilities and landing them all correctly. It's a lot harder, but she's an extremely strong pick. Bacchus, viable, low clear, all in once you jump in, makes them a little risky to play. Bacchusura, for low end ranked, Bacchus good. Another auto attack run at people god, works out well. High end ranked, he's terrible. He has no hard CC. He doesn't do enough damage fast enough. Ability junglers kill faster than the auto attack junglers right now. So I'd much rather play an auto attack jungler in the lower ranks than at the higher ranks. And when you get into the higher ranks, just even in higher, if it was Diamond and Masters, I'd put him in a viable. Because it's all ranks, I'm putting him into good, just so you guys understand that. Baron Smetty, I've actually played randomly in ranked against 2 Baron Smetty jungles. They got clapped. But it kind of works. You have a little bit of clear. You have a decent team fight. It's more sustained long-term team fight, which doesn't really match up with assassin junglers. It's hard to compete with them, which is why I put him in a viable. But he can be played. It's just not super consistent. It's going to be more on the losing end than on the winning end. Bastet. I don't think Bastet is truly broken. I don't think nothing beats Bastet. But with the amount of damage you're doing, with the new sustain passive, and with the new ult, your play styles can vary, and it makes her viable into every single team comp. Building Soul Eater gives you, I think after the nerf, it'll give you 40% ability lifesteal. Yes, they're nerfing healing when out of combat in the next patch as well, but it's still, you're going to be healing for a lot. You're going to be able to go into a fight, full combo, and then go heal, and then come back into the fight again after. The ability builds are top right now. The ability items are just, maxing out these gods, and Bastet fits that. You get a shit ton of damage out of your 3 core abilities, and then your ultimate is set up. It can burn beads. It can be used for pure damage. It has a lot of uses, and I think we're going to see Bastet do really, really well as long as we're in this ability high damage meta. If that meta shifts, she might fall down, but for right now, I think you're going to win most of your games, if not all your games, when you're playing her in ranked. especially in casuals. Bologna, actually a good pick in the lower ranks as well. Similar to Arachne and Bacchus, you play Bologna to just run at people on auto attack and they can't deal with it. Your 2 does hit very hard even when building auto attack style builds. You can go into a hybrid tankier build as well, building berserkers, building shifters if you want. And it all works well on Bologna because she doesn't need crazy high damage items to do damage because her scaling isn't the core, it's her base damage is just really high, and she does well with that. At higher end ranks, would not recommend. Works, but would not recommend. Lower end ranks, solid pickup for your team comp. Just make sure you're playing it correctly. Kabrakan is a good pick. High damage out of the jungle. Problem is it's magical damage. Ability, physical junglers are going to do more than Kabrakan. Kabrakan has a low mobility, but is root immune with the 1-up, which is solid. So there's times you can play it and do really well with it. There's times you can play it and it might not do so hot. No matter the team comp, it can be played. It's just whether you'll excel or not will depend on what gods are in the game and if you can get a lead or not. Kamazotz, right now, hasn't been nerfed yet. Next patch, he's getting nerfed. Right now, in my ranked games, I haven't seen the Kamazotz lose a game. I've played like 50 or 60 games between 2700 MMR and like 3300 MMR. He doesn't lose. He doesn't lose games. I don't know why. It's similar to Achilles in the solo lane. No one can deal with him. He is very safe because they upped how quickly he gets in the air with his ultimate. So his ultimate keeps him safer, makes him get that damage off a little bit quicker. He has his leap for dodging all of that, all the abilities and getting out of that, and movement, which they extended a long time ago and made it longer. Which I really think at that point when they made his leap longer, he just became an insanely strong god. And then we pair all that up with all of the items that are strong now, the Jotuns, the Crusher, the Erendite, all those being insanely good. Transcendence being better. Actually, I think they reworked Transcendence back to where it was. But anyway, all very strong items. All go directly with Kamazotz's kit, where he has 4 damaging abilities. He's doing well in SPL. He's really just the top jungle pick in my mind right now, next to 1 or 2 other gods, being Bastet, and we'll talk about the next one here in a few seconds. Cerberus, viable. Kind of rough to play. It's another guardian magic damage god that requires you to kind of be in their face for a few seconds to do damage. Yes, you do decent damage, but at the same time you will be getting return damage and it'll be more. You won't be able to pair up. Cern's just not good anywhere. He's viable. He can be played. He kind of makes sense in the jungle. He just lacks really hard CC and his movement is short. His dash is not a long enough dash to keep him safe all the time, which makes him very hard to play. And auto attack items aren't in meta right now, especially not in the jungle. So nothing's kind of making Cern do well. Chalk, I would say Chalk is a good pick in the jungle. I want to reiterate. So this is solid picks no matter team comp. This is your team comp. This isn't what you're playing against. This is solid picks no matter your team comp is what I meant by this. So Chalk is going to work with whatever gods are on your team, right? But he's going to work for 12 levels. After 12 levels, he's going to start to decline very rapidly and be worthless late game. Even if you're full damage, at some point, you will die so fast that your damage won't matter. Because the problem is, with Chalk, you have the delay on the 1 landing, you have the delay on the 2 going off, you have the delay on your ultimate because you're floating in the air for a second or 2, and then your healing isn't going to pair up with the amount of damage you have coming in, and you're not building auto attack, so that healing and that slow isn't going to change much running on top of somebody. You're still going to be taking a lot of damage. Chalk just falls off dramatically once he hits level 12, and that's always going to be his downfall. Chungha, I actually don't mind Chungha in the jungle. Fairly safe, a lot of CC. Problem is you have to be super close as a mage to do damage, and that is a risky kind of situation to put yourself in. Cryptis, I would also put in the good tier because her clear is great. Her team fight is okay. She doesn't have a lot of hard CC, but she can kill frontline. So if you're standing around with your hunter and your mid laner and all 3 of you are just killing whoever's in your face, it's going to work out really well for you because you're going to kill them rapidly. Problem is your early and your mid game is weak because you need a lot of farm to do damage. You lack CC. You can't set up your team. I see you lack CC. You have your ultimate. That ultimate should really be used to run away or catch up. It is very, very rarely actually used for the CC because in that time you stun somebody, you could have autoed 3 times, do way more damage. Chernabog, I'll throw Chernabog into the good tier because of his global ult. I really like it for ganking and being in team fights. He's very safe because of his dash. Has decent clear. It's not very great, but it's not bad. But he does have good wave clear when rotating through the lanes to just quick clear and keep on moving, which is solid. So it can be played. And it's not really, I wouldn't think you were trolling unless you've never played it before. Then you might be. Chiron, I would say, is more viable than good. Lacks a lot of rotation potential. Has no CC in his kit aside from a slight slow. More of a team fight god if you were to play him in the jungle, and even in that situation, it is not going to be good or consistent. It is going to put you in a very bad spot to be more than likely behind from the early and mid game, and then you just end up losing the team fights because you're behind. Kronos. I think Kronos is a good pick in the jungle. Fairly safe because of his ultimate. Has mobility to run away from people. Good CC. Great clear. Works well with mannequins or any of the jungle starter items, which is another thing to think about when playing these gods. I don't mind Kronos in the jungle. I don't think it's great, but I don't think most of the magic damage junglers are great. So not a bad pickup. Cleena, our newest jungler. So spelled like Cleodana or whatever. Cleena is how you say this god's name. She's broken. She's been nerfed twice, I believe. She still, I think, has one of the highest damage combos at level 2. So her 1-2 combo just shreds. It does an insane amount of damage. She is extremely safe when you understand the kit because she has a blind. She has a super, super long dash. One of the longest dashes, I think, in the game. And then she can walk into walls to get away. So movement, blind, second movement with the dash, go into walls. She also has a silence that I think people don't realize that one is very, very strong. She doesn't have insanely hard CC, but because she's sped up when she hits her 2, she can sit on top of you very easily. She has 3 range damage abilities, 1 to close the gap that can do a lot of burst damage. And then she has her ultimate. And her ultimate, even after nerfs, is insane. Because once you're full build, if you get the full build with a 3k potion and you put 2 of your ults down, you can one-shot a mage or a hunter. You put 3 of your ults down, you're almost guaranteed to one-shot a mage or a hunter. And people aren't respecting that for the late game. Her early game has high damage. Her mid game has great mobility, great pathing. She can get anywhere she wants by walking into the walls. High damage. And her ults are good, but not great. Then you get to the late game where you still have that whole early kit and you pair it with an insanely hard-hitting ultimate. And she's, in my mind, nearly impossible to deal with as an individual god. Easily the best jungler in my mind because she's very easy to play once you understand what her kit can do, how much damage she has, and without thinking you can throw your 1 out to silence an ability. I've been playing against people that have channels and stuff in lane. I'll go into lane at level 2 and I'll silence out like an E set wave clear, and then they don't have wave clear. You can do that to so many people. Silence out a Tiamat's attempted charge on 1. Like, there's so much play potential for Cleena that it's scary paired with the amount of damage she does. I do think she's beatable. I think there are a lot of gods that will have okay matches up with her, but you got to remember in the overall scheme of things, it's a 5-on-5 and how you can play around those 9 other players, your teammates and the enemies. And I think Cleena just does it insanely well. Cthulhu. Kind of poop in the jungle because it's clear as butt cheeks, just straight up. He's clear as butt cheeks. You're going to want to build damage, and when you go big and you're going to get targeted, you're going to die very quickly. Cullen, not a bad pick. It's hard to manage your rage completely, and it's also difficult to make sure you are ready to transform at any given moment. Your wave clear is decent when you go into the lanes for rotations. Your jungle clear is pretty good. He's not a bad pick by any means. You'd actually think he would be a jungler, but it's just difficult because he's another god where your ability damage is done over the course of a few seconds. And in that few seconds, you will take damage. So if you're building damage, you're going to get hurt. That's why he works well as a solo laner, because you get ahead, you get very tanky, and you can be in their face doing those high base damage numbers over and over and over again. Cupid used to be pretty decent in the jungle for a while. He's just not doing it now. Having 1 real damage ability kind of hinders him a lot and just brings him down to that viable tier. Daji. Daji is the other god that I'm going to put up into broken / top gods to play. Daji does insanely well because her ultimate counters a lot of the gods being played right this second. A lot of the junglers being played that are good, a lot of the mages being played that are good, a decent amount of hunters, even soul laners. Like, I'm seeing so many gods that Daji actually plays well with and against being played, and I play her all the time. The last time I played her in a Grandmaster game, I had 17 kills in like 14 minutes and they surrendered. Her damage numbers are crazy. Her burst potential is crazy. And just the use of her ult is very, very strong into those gods without CC immune ultimates. She has good mobility with her 3 to get in and out of fights, which sounds weird, but it does work out. And you counter a lot of these gods that are being played with your knockup. So your 2 is knockup immune if you did not know. So gods like Hero can't drop their ult on you and get you knocked up. Tiamat's being played. One of Tiamat's main CC abilities is a knockup. There's just a lot. Gab's being played. can get away from that knockup. The other thing is you pair well with a lot of gods on your team. Ares is getting picked a lot. You have an Ares on your team. Ares ults, burns beads. You ult, they're pulled. It just has so much synergy on both sides of the not the map, both sides of the team comps, that I think Daji is probably my favorite god to play because she's never banned. And she's very, very good. Danza. Put Danza in the good tier. He actually has decent clear. Has a good team fight. I'd probably rather play... I gotta move this up. I'd probably rather play an Honor than a Danza, so I don't think viable is fair for Honor because he's actually good. His clear is good. His team fight is good. He plays kind of like a ranged assassin when you play him in the jungle. So Honor, I need to move up. That was a mistake on my part. Danza, similar to Honor, with a little bit less CC, and the damage takes a little bit longer to get out, but works well with ability builds and with auto attack builds. So Danza is going to be in that good solid tier. Plus, he's fairly safe when played properly with his ult and his 3. Discordia, viable, can be played in the jungle. Just Discordia is not good. She doesn't do enough damage, doesn't do enough of anything. Do not even recommend playing her in the mid lane. Erlang Shen is getting a nerf. And with that nerf, I'm putting him in the very strong. I probably would have put him here anywhere. He can be played in a lot of games. It's because he works with an ability style build with the Jotuns, with the Crushers, with Arondites, all those items, very, very good. And then you pair it with like a Kins or something and you can do auto attack damage as well. Super strong god with heavy aggression. The reason he's so good is because of how much damage and aggression he actually has. He's a knockup in his kit, high damage, a root, good auto attack damage, a setup ultimate that heals you. He's got a good amount of everything in his kit. He just lacks a little bit of mobility, keeping him out of that broken tier right now. And because the items are very good on him, but they're very good on a lot of other gods, he isn't like specifically getting buffed by auto attack items like he was at one point. E-sets. I actually don't mind E-set in the jungle. You lack movement, but you have very, very high damage and you have good setup that can kind of catch people off guard because of your silence and your stun combos. Plus, if anyone's diving on you, you Aegis, you ult, and you buy yourself and your team time while also doing damage. I don't mind playing E-set. I don't think she's good, like in terms of you should play her every game and you'll win every game, but she's not a bad magic option or alternative to a lot of picks. This is when being played properly. Remember, these are being played properly. If you've never played E-set before, you're not going to pick her up and do it in the jungle. But if you're comfortable with her after playing her in mid a bunch, she's actually not terrible in the jungle. It really isn't. And remember, this is a jungle-based tier list. Jungle-based. If every god were to jungle, how are they in the overall scheme of the game? Remember that. Fenrir, I think, is actually a very strong pick. I do not think he's anywhere near the broken tier, but he can be played pretty much every single game and do very well. He has setup, he has good damage, he has sustain, he's got a good ultimate. It's all about playing him correctly, and the ability items do actually make him do his job a lot better. You see him played in the SPL and do very well. I think he actually does better in lower end rank than anything, because people don't know how to deal with brutalize, people don't know how to deal with you running at them over and over again, people aren't good with their beads and using and saving, or using them in the right situations and saving them in others. So you end up getting a lot more value out of Fenrir from bronze to plat, but still works very well in the Diamond Plus games. Freya, actually not a bad jungler overall. If you're being run at, it's going to be difficult, but it's playable. She does a high amount of damage. It is very unexpected. Her clear is good. Her peel is there for herself with her ultimate and her 3. Her setup is actually there because of the whoop. The 3, she can set up her team and get her team in a position very easily. I like playing Freya a lot. I think she works really well. She's more she requires knowledge to play her right in an overall game, because you will have mana issues if you're just spamming everything. Her clear, you don't want to use both abilities on her clear. Definitely not every camp. Occasionally is okay, but your lane clear is great, and your pressure and your potential to do damage is great. And she's scary as hell once she gets 2 items online, Telkines and Hastened Ring, I think is what it's called. If those 2 items are online, you do so much damage. If you're able to go to a team fight late, every fight, you will control the game. Geb, playable. His clear is kind of bad, but playable. They changed the damage the way his ult works. It has more damage on it. It can actually kill people, and Geb actually does pump damage, but I wouldn't play it if I was trying to win every game. Gilgamesh, insanely strong god still. Can be played every single game. Have a good game every game. Crazy setup with your kick and with your ultimate. Good mobility out of your 3. Even more setup out of your slow on your 1. And really consistent damage across the board on all of his damaging abilities, because they're all damage abilities. Plus he works with every single build, hybrid, pure ability damage, or auto attack. All the builds work. Guan Yu can be played, not a bad jungler, just another situation where he's got an extended period of time to do his damage on his 3 and his ultimate, and you'll die in that time when building damage. Hachi, viable, just not the best. Your CC is very hard to get off properly as a jungler. You're gonna be out of position every time you do it, and you need a lot of farm to do damage. You're a hunter. You need a lot of farm that you're not gonna get without getting ganks in the jungle, and ganks are gonna be very difficult because you lack hard CC. Hebo is a really strong overall magical jungler. You're gonna get countered by a good amount of picks, but he's a good god in general. For just based on your team comp, if you need magic damage, he's great. He has consistent damage, that short cooldowns on the 1 and even on the 3. You're able to take somebody with you every time you die with your ultimate if you're playing the game properly. You have the best type of CC with the knockup on your 3, which is great. The thing people struggle at is they waste their 3 too much. As soon as your 3 is down, if I'm the enemy jungler, I'm going to go on you because I know you can't get me off of you. I'm going to be able to kill you before your 3 comes back up. So saving and using your 3 is kind of core to playing Hebo, but he does so much damage. And his ganks are good because he has the knockup, because he has the full commit on the ultimate that does usually kill somebody. He is a good pick. It just comes down to how you play it. And if you get hard counter picked, like a Fenrir is going to stomp a Hebo every single time. A Daji is going to stomp a Hebo every single time in terms of that 1v1. Play Hebo, avoid the 1v1, play for the team fights. Very, very strong pick. Heimdall is actually a good pick. Can be safe all the time as long as you're using your 3 correctly. Clear is not bad because he has cleave autos plus the 1. His gank potential is okay. He needs a lot of farm, and that's really where he struggles and his downfall is, in my opinion. Hercules, another actual good pick because he does very, very good damage. High base damage. His early game is crazy. Problem is, your late game, you die very quickly. So one misplay, one out of position, makes it a little bit harder to play with your team. If they're expecting you to keep going in first, you're going to die. So you have to just kind of slow it down, play more like an assassin. It becomes very difficult to play that way with the lower mobility that you do have on Hercules. Horus, another good pick, does really good burst damage, has good mobility between the 2 and the 3. His ultimate is really his weakest point, in my opinion. Some people try to hype it up. I think it's one of the... I don't want to say worse ults in the game, but because it requires situations to arise to be used, it can't just be used all the time as an ultimate, kind of makes it kind of poo-poo, you know? So Horus is not up there for me as a jungler, but definitely can be played, and it's actually a good pick. It's not bad at all. Ho Yi, probably my favorite jungle hunter. Really safe with the 3. You can get over walls, which is core for junglers, in my opinion. Those that can do that just tend to be way easier to play in a safe situation, to keep yourself safe in a way to be safe all the time. You have ridiculous damage potential out of the 1. At level 12 right now, if you have 2 items, your 1 can do somewhere around like 1500 damage if you get a double bounce where it hits 3 times. Even a single bounce where it hits twice is going to do 1000 damage. Ho Yi has ridiculous damage when running into somebody in the jungle if you are good with your angles and using your 1. Plus, your ultimate. It buys yourself time in team fights. It buys yourself self-peel if anyone is diving on top of you. It's decent setup and catching mechanic because you can slow people and get on top of them, get back on top of them, catch up. Ho Yi's a good pick. I really love, like, Ho Yi might be one of my favorite hunters to play in the jungle. Always has been, always will be. Hun Bats, literally always good. Doesn't have any actual bad matchups. Has some that are more borderline, like a Wilix. Amazing god. One of the best teamfight ultimates in Smite. Great mobility, insanely good clear, great team fights, shorter cooldowns on abilities with the builds. Humbaz is just a solid pick all the time. Literally a top pick all the time. Doesn't get the credit because he's not getting banned and people are freaking out about him. But if you lay down his kit compared to everyone else's, it's nuts. 2 movement abilities that both do damage. That reminds me of Circuit-esque, but you don't have to sit still to do those damages. You can port to people to catch up on top of them. You have a 2 that is an AoE massive amount of damage. All of these abilities are also able to proc hydras and give you auto attacks. So they all set you up to land auto attacks. If you jump on top of somebody, they're slowed, auto attack. If you 3 somebody, port on top of them, auto attack. If you 2 somebody, you can move around very easily in the 2. Get right on top of them, auto attack. Then you have your ultimate. Can split up a team fight, can set somebody up to be CC'd to die, can peel for your team, can peel for yourself, can burn beads. It does everything. Like, his kit does everything in the game that you could possibly want. The only thing he doesn't have is hard CC on his regular kit. Still has in his ultimate. Continued, extended hard CC. So it makes up for not having it in the regular kit. Bats has and probably will always be one of the best jungle picks in the game. Izanami. And that doesn't mean, remember, this isn't me saying they are truly unbeatable or whatever. It's just they are the top jungle gods. I have it at a broken tier, but it is a top god to play all the time. Izanami, viable, can be played, not going to be good because it's easy to play against an Izanami because your dash is so slow. You can deal with the dash as an assassin super easily. Erendite's going to hard counter you. You need a lot of damage you need a lot of items to do damage. You need a lot of farm to do that, and you have horrible ganks. So Izzy's going to be in the viable tier. Janus, actually a good pick because of your crazy high mobility and because your burst damage and your short cooldowns. Kali, another one that is a top god to play. Kali's actually being banned in Masters games very often right now in ranked. I think it kind of comes down to the fact that Crusher is very good on her, even though it's an ability assassin item. And it's her 1 and her 2 does do ability damage. But it's the burst potential coming out of the combos on your 3 auto, 2 auto that pairs well. I like to go mannequins into Crusher and Hydras and then auto attack items, Hastened, Kins, Xe. It stomps. And a lot of people are going into Crusher and then tier 2 Oboe, finishing the rest of the build and finishing the Oboe because Oboe was nerfed a while ago. She's winning a lot of games. It makes sense because it's scary and hard to deal with. People don't know how to play around Kali ult. A lot of gods don't have the mobility or the way to deal with a Kali jumping on top of you and sticking to you with the auto attacks. So she just does well right now. Top god, easily a top god to play. King Arthur can be played, but he's kind of doo-doo. He needs to be consistently building up that rage energy, whatever it's called on him, and it's difficult. It's not easy, and he dies very, very quickly when built with damage. Kazimbo, similar situation for King Arthur, where he's kind of trying to be in your face for a long period of time with the 2 procs and everything else. It just doesn't work with damage builds. Loki is a very strong jungler right now. Ridiculous damage. Probably the fastest level 1 to 2 clear getting to the mid lane. So early ganks, level 2, blinking on the mid laner. Very, very common with Loki. He does so much damage when you try to run away, which is the other problem with him. Because as soon as you get opened on by Loki, your brain wants you to run away. Loki wants you to run away because he does more damage to you. So it's a difficult thing to deal with. That's his early game. His mid game and his late game are very similar situations. High burst, very high damage, good AoE setup with the ult stun combos he has now. Then he can just be annoying between stealthing and running around and opening on you and poking you. Great jungle pick right now. Very, very strong. Played in a lot of games. Medusa, even after the buffs that are coming through, I still think she's going to be bad because her dash doesn't allow you to move through people. Until that happens, she's just not safe enough to be played. Mercury, very strong jungle pick right now. Did I not move up there? I'm trolling. I moved Mulan. Whoops. I'm trolling a little bit. With Mercury, he's getting a buff to his 1. It'll go through walls. That's going to be sick. Biggest problem with Mercury is good players are going to build Spectral, and it makes the game harder for you to play. There's an item that literally makes the game very, very difficult for you to play. So I recommend building crit early. I've started building crit rage first item because getting crit online is super just impossible to deal with for the enemy. Yes, a little bit of RNG does have to come your way, but with the way crit works in Smite, you're almost always getting a crit when you need it. So Mercury, super strong right now, going to be even better when they change his 1 to go through walls. Mulan, insanely good jungler right now and solo laner. Rather have her as a solo laner, but very good jungler right now. Super high damage, decent mobility. They keep buffing her, making her strong. Her burst potential out of her 2-1 combo will 100 to 0 a mage or a hunter in the mid game, which I think is just absurd to think about because it's also healing her, it's also giving her attack speed, and it's not her movement abilities. It's just 2 damaging core abilities. Very scary to play against and play with. Her early and her mid game is where she excels. Her late game gets a little bit weaker. Still can be played. Still has good damage. Just harder to get it off without dying in that same amount of time. but she's very, very good, very strong. Naja, good in the jungle scheme of things. I think Naja needs a rework. I hate the entire kit. Your 2 is dog shit now because of the way anti-heal or healing works when you're out of combat. Your 3 is solid, but it puts you out of position because there's no getting out of the team fight. Her ultimate can be beads every single time, and is also countered by items like Magi's. It's countered by beads, and it's countered by a lot of abilities that are going to make God CC immune. It just makes Naja difficult to play. Overall, the kit's pretty good. Has good damage. They buffed the way the 1 works, where if it's just single bouncing on somebody, it does a little bit more damage. Has decent fight and aggression potential. It just requires a lot of situations rather than you being able to control and force those situations. They have to come to you, which makes it hard to play. Neath, viable because you can clear and you have a little bit of CC, just not going to be consistent. Requires a lot of farm. Doesn't have super hard CC because you don't have any stuns outside of your ultimate, but the ultimate and everything with an ability build does come into play and does do a lot of damage. Nemesis, I think Nemesis is still a top god to play. Great clear, great team fights. You lack a CC immune ult, but you make up for it with high mobility, with the ability to return damage with the 3. And because you excel insanely with the top items in the game, Crusher, Jotuns, Hydras, Erendite, Serrated Edge, you can pretty much 100 to dominance. You can pretty much 100 to 0 anybody. If you ult anyone who doesn't have defense, even if they do have defense, if they have a little bit, but anyone who has very low defense or no defense at all, a hunter, a mage, an assassin, you can one-shot them with an ultimate, an auto, a 3, an auto. So that's instant damage. I say instant kill because you have auto attack canceling. So you ult, auto, 3, auto, all in 0.5 seconds. That will kill somebody. Those 2 autos will hit for 800. Pair that with the return damage on the 3 and the ultimate damage that you just did, which is like 35 or 40% of their health. They're dead. They're gone. That's it. You do 1600 damage in autos. Paired with that, they're dead. Nemesis is very, very strong right now. Nike, actually a good jungle pick. I won't put her in very strong because in the late game, if you're building damage, you'll die. Even with your ult, you'll die very, very quickly. But your early and mid game is super strong and super annoying. Well, not super strong. It's good and very annoying and hard to play around for the enemy team. So Nike's going in the good tier. Odin, another good pick. He requires a lot of survivability, which is items, which is farm into hybrid or defensive items, which is why he's not the best jungler, but a very good solo laner. But he does work because he has high damage. He can be in your face for a long time, and he's got hard CC paired with setup. Good pick in the jungle, just not very strong. Osiris, good pick. Kind of more auto-esque, where you're going to play better in those bronze to platinum games because you can just walk at people auto-attacking. Higher than that, you're going to get CC'd and turned on very often. He's good. Not great. His hard CC is hard to get off. It takes time. It's just not really fitting in with the current meta. Pele is a very strong jungler. Has been for a while. Probably will stay very strong for a very long time. Works well with ability builds. Has a knockup in the kit, so you're getting the strongest type of CC in the game. And if you ever wonder why knockups are the best CC in the game, once you get knocked up, you can't beads. So to beads a knockup, you have to pre-beads, which most people never do. If you beads when in the air, which is a lot of people's reaction, you waste your beads because nothing happens. You use the beads in the air, but nothing changes. And it allows you to keep doing damage to somebody when they get knocked up. That's why knockups are so good. Pele lacks instant mobility in team fights because you have to use your ultimate to get out if you want instant mobility, and usually that's used to do damage in the team fights. But her damage potential is crazy, and she's very, very strong. And her sustain paired with the fact that she can move around fights when looking for a fight. She can't get in and out instantly, but she can move around the fights with her 3 very well. Just makes her good. Poseidon, solid jungle pick. Overall, good clear, lacks mobility, which is a downside because if anyone jumps on you, you're kind of screwed, but has a big ultimate that does a lot of damage, has CC in it. You have the pushbacks. If you're landing your ones consistently, those are super strong for self peel. You have your 2, so if you decide to go 1 or 2 auto attack items, you can actually do consistent damage. And then if you're 3 with the cripple, with that cripple on it, that just makes it very, very good if you're playing with somebody on your team that has some types of CC. Raijin, I think Raijin is probably a better version of Poseidon because you have a big damage ult. It just takes a little bit of time to get off, but you have mobility. The mobility is where you actually you like to see. You have the mez on your 3 to interrupt. If you aren't using it to run, you're using it to fight, you can interrupt a lot of damage. And then you've got a slow on your 2, which is very, very frustrating to play against. And you have good damage. You have lower CDR cooldowns when playing properly and building properly. Raijin's not a bad pick in the jungle. Similar to like Eset or even Poseidon, where you get a position and play well, but can be played. Rat. I would put Rat into the good tier usually, but with the buffs coming through and with what the items are allowing him to do, he's actually a really strong pick. He's just not played that much. It's all it comes down to. He's really not played that much. The games I have played against him, I've seen people do very well. He's got CC in his kit. He's got a slow in his kit. He's got pen shred on his 2. He's got a knock on his ult and a semi-global ultimate. He's got a very, very good overall kit that people just are not taking advantage of right now. Ravana. I think Ravana is the best jungler for anyone who's new to play because he is a top god, one of the top junglers in the game. He's very easy to play because his abilities, while they are skill shots, you have to aim them, they're easy to hit, right? You have a big rectangle route you throw out. You have a cone 1 that's really big that you can hit that slows people. Makes autoing very easy. You have mobility on your ultimate that also does high damage. And then the kicker is he has 2 is probably one of the best abilities in the game, just regular abilities in the game, because it does damage and it's a controlled immunity. You can immune any CC or damage that you want when you're reacting, not like a potato. So Ravana is the top jungler in my mind that will always work in every team comp because of what he brings to the table. Extremely consistent and extremely easy to play. Scylla, I would put Scylla into... I almost want to put Scylla up higher than Raijin or Poseidon, but it's kind of similar boat. She's really safe, requires a decent amount of farm to do good damage, requires getting to the late game. She has decent CC with a root and her slow 1 or 2. Nothing crazy. She just does good damage and follows up her teammates very well. Serket. I will put Serket in the very strong tier. Her downfall is the fact that all of her damage requires her to stay in the same spot for an extended period of time. Her 1, yes, it's quick damage, but you're going to take return damage while you're dashing back and forth in your 1. Your ultimate, you get on top of somebody, but everyone else can turn and hit you, and even that person can beads and hit. You drop their abilities on top of themselves and hit you. You just die very quickly because those abilities require you to literally sit still to do that damage. They've also nerfed her a bunch, but she is very good. Her late game is probably where she's the worst because other people can kill you faster than you can get your damage off. Early and mid game, very, very strong. Set, extremely strong jungler still, even after all the nerfs. Your sustain is a little bit less, and your ability to use hydras and just get a lot of hydras has been reduced by a lot, but he's still very, very good. He's that perfect jungler for players who go into fights late. Like, you wait for your team to get low. You wait for all the abilities to get thrown out before you even think of going into the fight. That's where Serket excels. Or Serket, where Set excels. Because if you jump into a team fight when people don't have their mobility, they don't have their big damage abilities, you build up all of your damage and there's nothing they can do once you build it up. Scotty, not a bad pick, just lacks true mobility. Good clear, kind of makes sense in the jungle when you think of it. It's just the fact that you lack mobility that everyone's going to be able to turn on you and kill you because you won't be able to get away. Soul, similar situation to Scotty, where you actually have really good jungle clear, you have good consistent damage, you can move around the map decently, you just don't have instant mobility, which causes you to die very quickly to ability assassins. Wukong. I'll put Wukong in the good tier. I kind of want to put Wukong up here. I almost wish I had a tier in between where it was like average. Maybe we'll do that. We'll add a tier. Yeah, I was told it takes 1 second to move this. We're gonna add it here. I think I should have done this off the rip, but we'll do this. Average. Not what how would I describe this? Okay, picks. Not putting yourself in the best best position to win. That's what we'll do. We'll call it that, and we'll give it a purple one. And like all of these where I was saying like they can be played, but they're a little bit more, they're just difficult in general to play. I'm gonna put down here into the average tier. Probably put Charybdis down here, Chernabog. Boom. 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 I want to make sure I'm not missing any. Scotty. That looks better to me. So, not putting yourself in the best situation to win, basically saying These gods can work and you can have good games on them, but it's gonna be very, very hard to do that. And then the viable is where play them if you want, but you're probably not gonna win. They're never gonna be consistent, and I wouldn't recommend playing them if you want to win your games. I think that's a little more fair. All right, Susano's extremely strong. His ultimate is a crazy strong ultimate right now. His level 2 damage is a lot higher than people realize. If you blink on an immobile mage or a level 1 mage in the mid lane when you're level 2 as Susano, and you auto attack cancel properly out of your 3 and your 1, you can kill them before they can get to their tower. It's crazy. Terra. I'd put Terra into the viable situation. Once you get the late game and you can ult, she one-shots people. But the early mid game is way too rough to be trying to consistently get to the late game and get wins. Thanatos, I think, is a great pick. I have people asking me, what do I think they need to change the Thanatos to make him viable? He's very good right now. Problem is, you probably missed a lot of your size. If you don't hit all of them, or like upwards 70% plus of them, you're not doing anything. You don't do any damage. You just die. You're kind of worthless. And in the late game, if you miss one of those sites, you're probably dead in that situation, losing your team fight or potentially the game for you and your team. So it's just a very high risk, but if you're very consistent with your abilities, just a great pick. The Morrigan, I've actually had a lot of people ask me if questions about the Morrigan jungle. So I played her, kind of understand where people are coming from. I'd put her in a good tier where like she has decent gank potential, and it makes sense on paper, her in the jungle, good jungle clear, your gank potential is great. It's the fact that your stealths are loud, so ganks are a little bit more difficult. People will be warding heavily to deal with seeing your ganks, and if they know you're about to gank, or if the jungler counter ganks you, you're probably gonna die. And then the longer cooldown on your ultimate makes it difficult to consistently put yourself in bad situations and not die. That's why she's no higher than good, and I wouldn't put her in average because she is going to be way more consistent than these gods. Thor, I think Thor is actually a very strong pick right now. Not the best jungler in the game, has kind of a weaker late game, but I've seen him doing very, very well overall. Ability items are always going to make Thor do better, and I think Thor is in a good place right now. I would love to see him get buffed so he was a top true like must play jungler in the SPL. That's when Smite is usually the most fun, or at least to watch, is seeing Thor being played in the jungle. So I hope he gets a buff soon. Tsukiyomi still very strong. The only downside to Tsukiyomi, in my opinion, is a lot of us like to go into fights very early. We don't give ourselves time and our teammates time to get in. And if you ult into a team fight, you're going to get turned on. So with Tsukiyomi, you have insanely good range clear, range poke, and your wave clear is great. So if you go into lanes, you can wave clear and poke people. If you play slowly around the fact that you can 1 and 3 over and over and over and over again, and then go in once your team full commits, you will be just dominating games. Tier, I would put Tier in the good spot. It's hard to consistently play Tier, hit your ones, not have gods that are knock immune, and not get CC'd into your death when building damages tier. That's why I'm just going to put him in the good tier. Ul, I'd also put into the good tier. Great CC, requires a lot of farm, and if you are not hitting most of your axes, you're probably worthless. Just straight up as a jungler, because you don't get to spam axes like you do in duo lane. You don't get to axe over and over and over and look for combos. You go into a lane, you look for a combo. If you don't hit it, you're either taking damage during that time, or the enemy team is just going to walk away and go farm something else. They're not going to sit there waiting for the next axe to come out. So after that, we have Vamana. Vamana, I'd say average. He's getting a buff where he's getting a more attack speed from his passive, which is going to be sick for him. It's noticeable, but he dies too quick right now. Even when you build damage or defense, you die too quick between just gods pumping out tons of damage, having tons of pen late game, you being so big that nobody's missing abilities or autos on you. Very difficult to play. Vulcan, an average jungle pick. Your clear's all right. You lack mobility. You lack truly hard CC. Yes, you have your knockup on your 3, but it's not the same as a controlled knockup where you're trying to follow up damage off of it. And then your ultimate is nowhere near as consistent. Even if you're a great Vulcan player, it is nowhere near as consistent as most other mage ultimates. Shibalanke, I'm gonna throw Shibalanke in the average tier. Mainly your ganks are still kind of bad, but you have this slow in your kit and you have a lot of high consistent damage, and your clear is really good. So as long as you're playing to just farm and push every wave, and I say that because you walk into a lane, you should out clear any combo. You go to mid lane, you and your mid should always out clear. You go to the solo lane, you should instantly out clear. Your jungle clear is very good. Your setup and your counter ganks are great because of your ultimate. So that's why I'm gonna throw Shibalanke in the average tier. I am gonna put Ymir into the good tier. He's bad because he has no movement. That's why he's bad. His actual kit and what he can do is good. People are gonna bead your beads, or beads. They're gonna bead your beads. They're gonna bead your 3 every time, and that's where you're gonna be looking to disengage. But as long as you're grouping up and playing as a team, you have very good consistent damage, short cooldowns, good setup out of your 3. You're slow on your 2 and your wall on your 1. Great jungle fighting god. Kind of a bad laning fighting god in my opinion. As a jungler, would avoid lane fights, but he's a solid pick. Like, it's not a bad pick. You're not trolling picking this. It's just difficult to play. And then Zeus, I'll put out Zeus in average tier. I actually like Zeus in the jungle. He lacks hard CC and he lacks true mobility, but his 2 gives him a 40% movement speed, so you can kind of zoom around in team fights, and you do pump out a lot of damage if anyone dives you or chases you into the jungle. So it's all about warding, positioning properly, and trying not to get dove. That's why I wouldn't put him any higher, because you are going to get dove by these assassins, these ability assassins. So here is my current tier list for jungling. I can see where some people would argue like maybe Athena is a very strong. Athena is very strong as a jungler. Very consistent, very, very good. I would argue that you could put Achilles up here into very strong, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. Outside of that, Arachne, Bacchus, and Ao Kuang, I could understand why you would want to move these up. But if you are playing these every game and people learn how to deal with auto attack gods, or you're in a higher rank where people know, oh, auto attack gods aren't scary at all, they don't do well. They'll do fine with any comp, but they don't do well around people playing the game properly. They're solid picks. You're not trolling. You can do your job and jungle just fine, but it's not the same as an ability assassin who can control the situation versus an auto attack assassin who has to play around the circumstances that come up. So this is my tier list. I'm just looking over it to make sure nothing seems weird to me. Most of these I wouldn't play if I were you at all. If you're learning the game, I would stick to these gods and a handful of these. I would pick 3, maybe 4 gods to just consistently play over and over again. And then if any of these gods are kind of just like stuff you love to play and you feel you do very well on, makes perfect sense for you to play them, in my eyes. Hopefully this tier list isn't too weird or troll to you. I hope you guys don't freak out in the comments. I know some people are, oh, this is the worst tier list ever. But in reality, pretty strong tier list. And like, this is stuff I would tell you to play. Personally, they're gods. I don't like Achilles in the jungle. I don't think he's fun to play. And I think he's kind of slow. He feels slow. But you can definitely play him. So hopefully you guys like this video. Hopefully the tier list helps you in some way, shape, or form. Like I said, any questions, comments, please drop them below. Hit the like button if you like the video, and make sure you subscribe to the channel, please. And I will see you all in the video later tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day, and the next day.